Hello, everybody, and welcome to our new episode of Authentic Africa. My name is Andrea Radke, and I'm the owner and operator of Lion Dog African Safaris. We are a niche tour operator located in North America, and I am offering private guided, customized tour to Africa. We cover quite a few areas in Africa, and these video presentations talk about different parts of planning your tour to Africa, being in Africa, and introducing different areas of Africa. So today we will talk about some other jewels of Africa. We have covered game safari. We have covered gorillas and chimps in Uganda and Rwanda. We have covered some of the main activities we do, like climbing Kilimanjaro and so on. And today we'll talk in a short version or shortened version about some other areas. And let me share my screen with you so I can show you what I'm talking about. Give me just a second, as always. Here we go. So as I mentioned in my previous modules, and you can look them up on YouTube, find the Lion Dog African Safaris channel, and all the videos that I recorded before are all published on there. So you can go back and see them, or go back through your newsletters and click the link in the newsletter, and you will be able to see the video again. So you can go back to the information if you can't remember exactly or want some more information or something like that. So today we'll talk about the jewels of Africa, all our components, game safaris, all the different jewels, all the activities, every different type of comfort level, economy, mid-range, and luxury range can all be combined. I can mix it all up for you. So you just let me know how you want to experience Africa, what you want to do, and what your preferred way of traveling is. And then we'll work on it together, and we'll come up with something that gets you excited to go to Africa. So today, module 5, can you imagine? It's been like more than 6 weeks that we have been dealing with this pandemic, and I think we're nearing the end. So I'm getting excited, and those pictures, look at those beautiful pictures, they get me excited as well. So today we talk about Egypt and the Nile cruise. We will talk about Zanzibar. We'll talk about Namibia, Victoria Falls, and we'll also talk about Cape Town in South Africa on our little adventure here. So let's start with Egypt. In Egypt, the main areas we visit are Cairo, and then we'll do the Nile cruise from Luxor to Aswan. And again, you can pick and choose. If you just want to do Cairo, maybe a little bit of Luxor, we can do that. If you just want to do the Nile cruise, we can do that. If you want to do it all, we can combine it all. The Nile cruise itself is 4 nights. So you have to budget for about 5 or 6 days, depending on your airline, how you get into Egypt. Everybody coming to Egypt has to land in Cairo. That's the international airport. We will fly you from Cairo to Luxor to start the Nile cruise in Luxor and then end up in Aswan. From there, you can fly back to Cairo and then either home or do your next part of your adventure. Again, the Nile cruise is 4 nighs on the cruise ship, taking you from Luxor to Aswan. And on the way down, you'll stop at many, many different little ports. You go off the ship onshore and explore the pyramids, explore temples, explore other things that are to see there. Some botanical gardens and so on. It's quite neat. It's a quite relaxing tour. So it's private guided yet again. You will get your own Egyptologist that will accompany you on your tour. He will be on the boat. If you want to skip some of the antiquities because you're kind of, getting tired of looking at all of them or something like that, or your legs get tired because there's some walking required to get from the boat to your antiquity and back, and then in the areas themselves you will have to walk quite a bit. So if you want to stay back, that's fine. If you want to do it all, absolutely fine and doable. So don't be discouraged by me telling you that you need to be able to walk a bit. I've had actually a client that did Tanzania and Zanzibar before Egypt, and he had like a miniature, like a minor fissure in his leg, that he slipped on the concrete and fell and hurt his leg. And he only did the antiquities that really, really interested him. So he stayed back on the boat for a bit, and then he did some of it. He honestly did most of all the sightseeing that was offered, and he did fine with honestly a fractured leg almost. When he came back, he was a Canadian. When he came back to Canada, he got it checked out, and X-rays actually showed that his bone was affected by the injury. So, but he did it. So that means it's doable, and you can also take it easy and stay on the cruise ship, and enjoy your time there. The cruise ship has all three meals included. Drinks, etc., are excluded, but you do have your private Egyptologist, almost like your game safari guide, that takes you to all the exhibits, takes you through everything, and explains to you what it is about. You do not share this guide with anybody else. He is yours. The two of you, four of you, however big your own private little travel group is. So 4 nights on the cruise ship. And if you do want to visit Cairo, you would have to add about at least 2 days in Cairo to see Giza and the pyramids, spend your time there without rushing through it, and then spend another day in Cairo to see the new museum. It's supposed to be open. I haven't followed up on it yet, but I will. It was supposed to be open last year, but of course, construction got delayed for numerous reasons. And the latest I heard, it was supposed to be open in April. So I'm not sure if it has opened yet, but it will open this year, sometimes in the summer, fingers crossed. So the new Egyptian museum replaces the Cairo Museum, and 80% of all antiquities and founds they found through archaeological activity there will be in the new museum. So it's supposed to be one of the biggest, most beautiful museums you'll ever see. So we usually recommend a full day, to spend enough time at the museum. When it was the Cairo Museum, we said, okay, you can do maybe a small activity before the museum or after the museum. But for this new museum, I would honestly say budget about a day for a timeline to do that. So if you want to spend more time in Cairo, we can add another day, but 2 days I would say is the minimum, so you don't have to rush through all the things that are offered there. We use some really good hotels in Cairo. The Mena House is a Marriott chain where you can get a room that looks out to the pyramids, or a garden view room. The cruise ship has always a good view, to be honest. Like, you will sail along the Nile, and left and right of the Nile, you will get a glimpse, to the Egyptian life. People, farmers, working their fields, little villages, you sail by, and you can, wave to the people and just check out what's happening. It used to be very, very busy on the Nile for cruise ships. That has changed in the last few years because of some situations in Egypt, politically involved. A lot of people are hesitant to visit Egypt. Right now, they are somewhat affected by the pandemic, as well as one of the African countries that struggles with it the most. Just after South Africa, they're kind of like head to head a little bit. But it is very, very safe to go to Egypt once the situation has resolved, and we're healthy, and all the measures are in place to keep us healthy on our travels. I have not experienced anybody that had any trouble in Egypt so far, and we've been doing this business for over 5 years now. So the previous owner, Mike and Marianne Donovan, they have done Lion Dog African Safaris for 10 years, and they have not encountered anybody that had any trouble from a political or terrorist situation in Egypt. So everybody made it to Egypt safe, and everybody made it home safely as well. The situation is that it's not very busy right now in Egypt, and it hasn't been before the pandemic. And you actually get to see the antiquities, and you actually get to spend time because you don't have to line up as much. You can get there easily. You can spend your time. You can take your time to take everything in, take as many pictures as you can, and get all the explanations from your Egyptologist. So that would be Egypt, Cairo. Be prepared for Cairo to be very dirty. It's a very dirty city. The touristy spots, they're doing their best to keep it clean and keep it attractive and nicely managed. But if you wander through Cairo, or you go to the markets or so, be prepared for it to be looking quite dirty in Cairo. That's just the culture there. It's different than what we experience here. But other than that, everybody that went had a really, really good time in Egypt. The private Egyptologist is honestly a bonus. It makes it just so much more enjoyable because you can truly ask all the questions and you get explanations, and you don't have to share your guide with anybody else. So you have all his attention just for you, and you can spend your day the way you really want to do it. Talking about leisure, talking about relaxation, etc., takes me to the archipelago of Zanzibar. So Zanzibar is not just an island; it's an archipelago of over 20 little islands in the Indian Ocean. Zanzibar is part of Tanzania, so it's situated in East Africa, and a lot of people take some time in Zanzibar after the safari to just wind down a little bit, spend some time at the beach, maybe explore Stone Town and see what's going on there. Stone Town is the center of or used to be the center of an old sultanate. There was a lot of trading going on of all kinds of goods, spices, fruits, slaves, fish, foods, and all that kind of stuff was traded up and down the east coast of Africa and even over into the Arabic countries. So it was a really busy area with a lot of trading going on, and that you can see a lot of that still in Stone Town. And Stone Town, the heart of Stone Town, is the old city, where you see a lot of old architecture, you see a lot of old lifestyle, very mixed cultures. Arabic and African cultures are mixed up there, and you can immerse yourself in that. And don't be afraid. Go to the market, check it out, talk to the people. But if don't expect anything polished, clean, lined up for you to be presented there. This is really the heart of the old Arabic culture in Africa. So be prepared to see trading out on the market, on the streets. Be prepared for people to eat out there. Have a conversation. Expect it to be loud in places. Expect it to be hustling and bustling, and maybe not as clean as you would expect Disneyland to be. So it's not like that. It's very authentic. You will find a little store that sells soaps and household goods right next to a store that sells tomatoes, butter, and maybe even meat. So the standards are not to North American standards. It is authentic African island living. So the Zanzibaris are an interesting folk. They're a little bit different than the mainland Tanzanians. So expect the clocks to go a little bit slower. Everything goes a little bit slower in Zanzibar. If you order a cup of coffee, be prepared to wait 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes. And maybe also experience how the waitress or waiter engage in conversation with you, asking about your trip, where you're headed, where you're coming from, did you enjoy it, what was your favorite part, and so on. That is what they do. That's how they spend their days. That's how they socialize with each other and keep those community bonds strong. So be prepared for that, and just sit back and relax. Take your time, watch the people, see what's happening, and then at the beach you'll have your time just hanging out if you want to. There are quite a few marine activities that are offered. So you can go snorkeling, you can go sailing, you can do a dhow cruise. Dhow boats are these old trading boats they used to take their goods up and down the coast. And we still use them. They still use them for transportation of goods, but some of these old dhow boats have been changed into passenger boats, and you can take a sunset cruise out on the ocean. You can go fishing. all those kinds of things that you can do in Zanzibar on the beaches, and some of the activities can also be done from Stone Town. So I would say a minimum of 3 nights in total on Zanzibar is probably a good start. With one day, we often do or always do a Stone Town walking tour. Stone Town is best explored by foot, to see all those narrow little alleys, to see the little markets, to see the slave market, the old church, the fort in Stone Town, and all of that. Maybe the promenade along the beach. So all that is best done walking, and be prepared for a motorcycle to come across honking at you, and you'll kind of have to step up on somebody's foot, like step into their house just to let that motorcycle through. So that's what you can expect in Stone Town. The beaches are beautiful in Zanzibar. The best beach of the island is on the north tip of the island, because that's the beach that's least influenced by the tides. The tides can go out quite a bit, quite far, and in some areas you will not be able to see the water when the tide is out. On the North Beach, you will always be able to go swimming. You'll always be able to wade in the water, even on low tide when the water goes out. On the East Coast, there are some areas where you can still go in the water when the tide is out, but then there are also areas where there's no more water when you go when the tide is out. We typically recommend the north area of the island for your beach part of your vacation, because you will always have the water there, and often people only stay a day or two at the beach, and we want you to be able to enjoy it as much as you can. If you stay longer, then there's nothing wrong with going to the east side. It's a little quieter on the east, but be prepared that you may have stretches during your stay where there's no water there. We have other areas around Zanzibar that we visit for other purposes. I don't want to go too much into it today to keep this module at a manageable length. But we also go to Mafia Island for some whale shark diving or snorkeling, and we also do some other marine activities like the turtle hatching, or just hanging out at the beach and snorkeling and swimming, etc., in other areas. But the main island of Zanzibar, it's called Unguja. That is where Stone Town is, and that's also where Nongwe Beach is. So that's Zanzibar. And again, often people add it on at the very end of their trip to just have a couple of days at the beach to enjoy the sunshine and just do nothing for a couple of days. So it's always nice to just hang out a bit. Okay, so from East Africa, I'm taking you all the way down to Southern Africa to talk a little bit more about Namibia. Namibia, also called the Land of Endless Horizons, is the second youngest country on the African continent. It reached independence in 1991, and it used to be a protectorate of South Africa. And that's important to know, because Namibia's currency, the Namibia dollar, is still tied to the South African currency, the South African rand. So they are traded at par, 1-to-1, and you can actually use South African rands to pay as a valid currency in Namibia. So if you do some South Africa first, and you have some rand left over, you are able to use it in Namibia. Namibia is a very, very easily traveled country. And by easily, I mean it has a very well-developed infrastructure. There are very well-marked roads. There are some main roads that are asphalt roads or tar roads, but the majority of roads are gravel roads. And I want to mention that because driving a gravel road can be quite exhausting as a driver as well as a passenger, because those roads can sometimes be very rough. I want to talk a little bit more about the mode of transportation to see all these areas that I marked here on the map, because the transportation type is going to have an influence on the time spent as well as your budget. The road system is very well developed, like I said, so it offers self-driving as well as guided driving. So some people that have been to Africa a few times want to do self-driving, and we can do that in Namibia. It's a good country to actually try that and do that. But we can also offer you a guide for your tour in Namibia. Again, if you self-drive, be prepared to drive numerous hours a day. We try to limit it to 4 or 5 because it can be exhausting driving on the gravel roads. And you know, when you're driving yourself, sometimes you miss things, especially when you don't have a guide and you don't know what you're missing. So having a guide on a tour, even in Namibia, is always a good thing because they can point out things that you may have missed. They can tell you a bit of the history of the area that you're driving through. They may know a little detour, just, you know, a few kilometers to get to something that is not highlighted on your tour, but is easily found or has a little market or something like that. So guides are really, really an essential part of your tour. But you can do self-driving in Namibia also. Be prepared if you do your entire Namibia tour driving that it will take at least 12 days, 10 to 12 days, because it is a very, very big country. And in those 10 to 12 days, you will not be able to explore everything that's on the map here, because it will most likely only take you through the northern circle, which has you start in Windhoek, go to see the dunes, have a day in Swakopmund, and then go through the Kunene region to Etosha, and then back again to Namibia. So that will be that small circle here that you will be able to do in 10 or 12 days. Everything else will add time if you're driving. You can easily spend 2 to 3 weeks driving through Namibia and seeing something new all the time, especially if you want to explore the Caprivi Strip up here. Remember us talking about the Okavango Delta? The Okavango Delta in Botswana is right down here, so just south of the Caprivi Strip here in Namibia. That's the area where you will have permanent waters, a couple of rivers that supply the water there all year long. The rest of Namibia, so south of the Kunene region, so from Etosha south, only has ephemeral river. That means they only run when there's a lot of rain falling. Not every rain makes a river flow, but good rains, and they have had some really good rains this year. This year was a good rain season for Namibia, and all areas of Namibia actually received rain. So coming up will be a beautiful, beautiful landscape, lots of young animals, lots of things to see, happy people, a lot of relief that people feel because after the drought, they just now have new hope, new life, new harvests. Everything kind of renewed itself after these good rains this year. So it would be really, really cool to go to Namibia later this year or early next year to see how it transformed. Of course, there's going to be another dry season coming, but hopefully we'll have, you know, a few years now of some good rains that the country can actually, or the landscape and the ecosystems can recover from the drought they've been through. There are some really cool cultures that can be visited, like for instance the Himba here. They are a semi-nomadic tribe that travels through the Kunene region mostly, so up here, with their livestock to find good pastures and areas for their cattle and goats to graze during the day. So they are moving around quite a bit right now. We don't know exactly where they will settle. There was an area around Corrigas where there was a settlement there, and they have moved because of the drought. They didn't have enough grazing there for their livestock anymore, so they have moved around a little bit. They haven't settled yet, so we'll see where they will go. Most likely, they will stay in the north, because the north has and still is receiving quite good rains. So I'm expecting them to go north, so a little bit out of the way. But they are a very interesting tribe to visit. Of course, Sossusvlei is one of the highlights in Namibia. There are very, very beautifully lit up dunes by the sunshine. The blue sky, the red color of the sand, and the sunshine make for incredible photography in Sossusvlei. Sossusvlei has the highest dunes in the world, with dunes up to 385 meters. There's one dune in the desert that's restricted, so one cannot get there. That's almost 400 meters high now. But there are some very high, 380 meters high dunes within the park that can actually be seen when you visit the dunes in Sossusvlei. So that's a highlight of Namibia. Really, really extremely beautiful to see. Very, very nice for photography. We spent about a day in Sossusvlei to admire that and see those deserty landscapes and how lively they actually are. So the Namib Desert is not dead. There's a lot of life in the deserts there, and it's quite astonishing to see. Of course, Etosha National Park, which I've mentioned already, and the Game Safari part is a very well and easily visited national park here in the central north of Namibia. Easily visited from Windhoek. It's about a 3-hour drive from Windhoek. You can combine it with the visit of the dunes. You will have to stay overnight somewhere on the way to Etosha. It's too far to drive in one day. Swakopmund is for instance, an area where one can stay a day or two to see some quirky colonial cultures. Like a lot of Germans have settled there, and there's a lot of German architecture, a lot of German food, really yummy pastry, butchers, and so on, restaurants that you can see in Swakopmund and experience some German culture in an African country, which is quite bizarre, but it is actually really, really good. I'm a German. I went to Swakopmund and the food is divine. Food and drink is awesome in Swakopmund. So even just for that, it's really worthwhile stopping there to have a really yummy meal, enjoy the ocean, maybe do an ocean adventure, a catamaran ride on the Atlantic Ocean, eat some seafood there. It's really, really good. If you are interested in rhino tracking, we would take you to the Kunene South, also known as the Damara land here, where one can go track some rhinos. These are black rhinos. They're solitary animals. So on your rhino tracking there, opposite to the Uganda rhino tracking we did, you will only see 1, maximum 2 rhinos on your track. And it may take a long time for you to get there. It's quite an adventure. You'll learn a lot about rhino conservation and Save the Rhino Fund in Namibia, which has been super successful. There have been more than 2 years with not a single rhino poached in that area. Unfortunately, the lockdown in the country just last week showed that there have been 2 rhinos poached in the area. But that followed a 2-year poaching-free time when not a single rhino has been poached in that area. So that's quite an achievement considering the situation about rhinos in the rest of Africa. So the Caprivi Strip I already mentioned takes you into the more tropical areas with a lot warmer temperatures, a lot more water around, and changing wildlife as well. So here you will find the bigger groups of elephant, you'll find buffalo in the area, all kinds of antelopes, lions, crocodiles, hippos, everything like that in Namibia's north. And then if you do want to visit the Kalahari, we would do that here in the southeastern area down here. You can do that on your way to Sossusvlei. We can stop there for a visit in the Kalahari Desert. There's also the Fish River Canyon in the south of Namibia, which is the second deepest or the second biggest canyon in the world, I want to say, right after the Grand Canyon. And it is actually the deepest canyon in the world. It's much deeper than the Grand Canyon, but it's not as long as the Grand Canyon, but very, very comparable. Interesting to see. Not a lot of wildlife there, but if you are a geologist or you like climbing or hiking backcountry areas, you can do a hiking trip through the Fish River Canyon. There's some hot springs there that can be visited. There's Colemanskop, an old abandoned diamond mining town that can be visited, and some other things in the area that you could explore if you would want to go down there. We can talk about that if that's on your list of things to explore in Namibia. Again, you can spend 2 or 3 weeks easily in Namibia to see something new. If you don't have the time or you would like to combine it with another area, I suggest flying through Namibia. Do it in a fly-in safari. or do a combination of driving and flying. And by that, you can cut down the number of days you require in Namibia. I have had people traveling through Namibia in 5 days, quite rushed, but it can be done. So just be prepared. You come and go and you come and go. You spend maybe one night in each area that you want to visit, or we can do a combination of driving and flying wherever you want to spend some more time and immerse yourself in the landscape and the culture and just the beauty of Namibia. Namibia is the scarcest populated country in Africa. There's one country actually in the world that's even more sparsely populated, that's Mongolia. And right after that is Namibia. Only has, I think, 0.7 people per square kilometer. So only 2.9 million people live in Namibia. And the size of the country is about the size of California. It's about Alberta and part of BC combined, half of BC combined. So quite big with less than 3 million people. And you know what? They haven't been very affected by the pandemic. There only have been 16 confirmed cases. So in this whole entire time, they did do a full lockdown. It's now being eased, and hopefully everybody will stay healthy and safe there. I do offer small group tours in Namibia through a third-party supplier. That supplier is one of the best suppliers in all of Southern Africa. They offer group tours of no more than 7 people on scheduled departure days. In 2020 as well as 2021. 21, they have added some departure days because we're anticipating demand for Namibia to climb, because it's very safe, because it hasn't been affected by the pandemic much, and they're anticipating that people will be ready to explore Namibia. Those group tours are guaranteed departures with a booking of one person. So if you are a couple and you picked a departure in Namibia to go on a group tour, on a small group tour, and it's only 1 or 2 of you, this tour will go. So it will not be canceled. It's a guaranteed departure at a minimum of 1 person participating. So those tours are 10 days. They will take you through the main areas. You'll see Sossusvlei, you'll see Swakopmund, you will see Damaraland, Twyfelfontein there, which is an area of Bushmen rock paintings and rock engravings. You'll see Etosha National Park. You will see the Africa Foundation on the way back from Etosha to Windhoek. So it started and end in Windhoek. 10 days. We typically require an extra night before your tour starts and an extra night after you arrive back in Windhoek. So in total, that will be 12 days in Namibia for your guided group tour with a 4x4 Land Cruiser safari vehicle, maximum of 7 participants, minimum of 1 person traveling. So if that interests you, give me a shout, send me an email, and we can talk about it more. Another area in Southern Africa, and here you see, this is the Caprivi Strip again. So here's the Okavango Delta, kind of going through the Caprivi Strip down here. And just a hop and a skip, less than a 2-hour drive away from the tip here is Victoria Falls. Victoria Falls is shared between Zimbabwe and Zambia, and it is the waterfall of the Zambezi River. Zambia would be upstream of the falls, Zimbabwe is downstream of the falls. And we typically send people to the Zambian part, and the town in Victoria Falls is called Livingstone. So Victoria Falls is considered the biggest waterfall in the world measured by water volume. So it has the most water falling down measured and compared to all the other waterfalls in the world. It is one of the natural world wonders. So people always say, it's very touristy, I don't want to go. Yes, it is touristy. Yes, there will be a lot of people there because it's something spectacular to see. And not only the falls, there are other activities we can actually do in Victoria Falls or Livingstone in Zambia. There are the Devil's Pool. These are the Devil's Pools that can be visited in the dry months of the year, September and October, where you can actually swim to the edge of the fall and look over the falls down into the gorge. That can only be done in the dry season when the water levels are low. It is safe to do. It's a little bit of a mental challenge to get there, and you have to swim through the river to get there, but it is very safe to do that in the dry season. Other activities that can be done is a helicopter ride or a microlight flight over the falls. You can do horse riding in Victoria Falls. You can go golfing if you want to. You can do a game drive in the national park that surrounds the Victoria Falls on the Zambia side. We can do a lion and rhino walk through the national park there. You can do sundowner cruises. You can do a train ride in an old steam train over the bridge over Victoria Falls. You can see that here. The train stops here, and you get dinner served. It's a little bit of a dress up situation where you get drinks served and dinner served in an old steam train, the Royal Livingston steam train over Victoria Falls. And from Victoria Falls, if you don't make it into Botswana because you don't have the time, or the rest of Botswana doesn't interest you all that much, we can do a day trip from Victoria Falls in Zambia over the border into Botswana, a day tour through Chobe National Park in Botswana. It takes you in the morning over the border, about an hour and a half to the border, cross the border, go on a water-based safari, so motorboating safari on the Chobe River through Chobe National Park, and then the afternoon is going to be a 4x4 game safari in the Chobe National Park in Botswana. In the evening, you will be back in Livingston, in your hotel, after a day of adventure in Botswana. So that all can be done in Victoria Falls. We typically say about 2 days, maybe 3 days, which will be a total of 4 nights in Victoria Falls. We can do less or we can do more, depending on how much you want to experience there. It's known as the adrenaline capital of Southern Africa because there's a lot of things one can do: bungee jumping, whitewater rafting in the dry months on the Zambezi River, fishing on the Zambezi River. So all kinds of activities can be done in Livingston to see the Victoria Falls and do more. Okay, so this is Southern Africa also. And then from here, and you see Namibia is here, Botswana is here, we can easily get you to Cape Town to experience a little bit of South Africa. Cape Town is a beautiful city to visit. It's very safe, it's very clean, it's very friendly. It's partly a vacation town or vacation city for South Africans. They come there in the summer break, for instance, to spend some time there. And it's just a really neat experience. It's, of course, an urban experience. You can see restaurants, boutiques, markets, museums, art galleries, all kinds of things that you can experience in Cape Town. Typically, we say about 3 days in Cape Town, which will include a city tour through the city to see all the wonderful places there, the waterfront, maybe if you want to see the township, all kinds of things that you can visit in Cape Town, including Table Mountain. You can go up on the gondola, up on top of Table Mountain, take a windbreaker, take a warm jacket. It's often very cold up on top of the mountain. But Table Mountain is usually included in the city tour, unless you don't want to do it, but I do recommend doing it. You get beautiful views over the city from Table Mountain. Also included is a trip to Robben Island. That's the island where Nelson Mandela was incarcerated for over 25 years. It is now a museum, so you can go and see how that looked like. You hear about the history, you hear about history of South Africa, and you learn a little bit more about Nelson Mandela. What also we do is a trip to the Cape Peninsula, down into the a little bit south here of Cape Town, where you can see African penguins. They have a few colonies there, and you can go and see it. It's a beautiful drive along the coast. Down the Cape of Hope is the area where the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean meet, and it just forms a beautiful coastline that is really, really something neat to see, a wonderful road trip, getting you back to Cape Town that same night. Lots of vineyards around Cape Town that can be visited. You can do wine tours, cheese tasting, wine tasting, visit the wine town of Franschhoek, which is quite a little artsy town, and you can spend some nights there if you want to, and just explore the area around Cape Town as well. Stellenbosch is there, University City, also with some vineyards and beautiful areas, old traditional architecture that can be seen there, mostly influenced by the Dutch people. So very beautiful. I've been to Cape Town numerous times. I have visited Stellenbosch a couple of times as well. So it's really, really beautiful down there. But it is not the wild Africa. It's not your straw huts. It's not your traditional people. It is very westernized, very developed, very European influenced. So this is not the wild bush Africa that you would experience in East Africa, Namibia, or Botswana. That's also one of the reasons why we don't do a lot of safari in South Africa. So everything is pretty much developed. It's pretty much handled by people. It's very much controlled and influenced with veterinarians, with wildlife protection, private game reserves, etc. in South Africa. We do offer some private game reserve experiences in the on the eastern side here, some around Port Elizabeth. We find Addo Elephant Park in this area, and we do also go sometimes to the areas of Kruger, but we do prefer the private reserves around Kruger. Honestly, I don't think Kruger measures up to any of the other game areas that we talked about earlier, even Namibia and especially Botswana. Kruger is quite expensive to explore. If you have the money available, visit Botswana instead. Visit the Okavango Delta, go explore Chobe, maybe even the Caprivi Strip in Namibia. You will have a more authentic experience in those areas than you would have in Kruger. Kruger is very busy. A lot of the roads have hydro lines, electricity going along. So you kind of feel more like in a game reserve than in the wild bush. And that is one reason why I promote Tanzania as a safari area, absolutely. Okavango Delta and Botswana as the best safari area in the world, and even Namibia is considered to be a better glimpse into Africa than South Africa would be. Namibia is also an area where a lot of South Africans go to experience the actual Africa wildness, because they can't find it really in South Africa. Nevertheless, South Africa has wonderful hospitality. The game reserves, the private game reserves, are really, really well maintained. Food is excellent. Your hosts will be super attentive to you. The hospitality is wonderful in South Africa. Really, really good. There is an area, it's called the Garden Route. It's down here, which is very much British influenced, and it has a very, very pleasant climate. It's the best climate, the second best climate right after Hawaii. Hawaii is supposed to be, or is considered the most mildest climate in the world, closely followed by the Garden Route in Cape Town. There you can again see a lot of art galleries, a lot of beautiful towns, beautiful coastline. You can see some farms there. You can visit an ostrich farm. You can see some caves there where you can explore the insides of the caves. There's a monkey sanctuary. There's an elephant sanctuary. So there's a lot of sanctuaries that can be visited. And you can spend about 3 or 4 days along the Garden Route visiting some wonderful, beautiful coastline, wonderful hospitality, really good food, super friendly people, the ocean right there, just like something out of a picture book, I want to say. But it's not the wild Africa that I described before. So I just want you to be prepared for that. But it's definitely worthwhile visiting, and it can be combined with any of the other components. Often we start in South Africa because of logistical reasons, and also to keep the wild Africa, the awe moment, the whole moment to the highlight of your trip, to the end. Okay, so here are some impressions of South Africa, Cape Town, penguins and your private game reserves, where you would do your game safari in an open-sided 4x4 game safari vehicle. All right, so this is it. I try to make it short this time. This is our final module. Make the memories, tell your stories, visit Africa to keep it alive, to keep it protected, and to keep it going for everybody else and for future generations. I shared this picture before. I'm sharing it again today. It is dear to my heart, and I really hope that our future generations will have the option and will have the possibility to experience Africa. So today, I also quickly want to talk about why you should consider booking with Lion Dog African Safaris for your next Africa adventure. I mentioned before, there's different times that offer different things to see in Africa, and I will get the timing right for you. I will either tell you what is best visited in the time you have available, say if you have a certain month that you want to go, or I will tell you when to go if you have something particularly that you want to experience. While you are on tour, there's a 24/7 hotline. Hot is me, the line is the phone. So if you need assistance, I am here 24/7 to take your call. Just be reminded that the time difference is about 8 to 10 hours from here, from North America to Africa. So if you call me during the day in Africa, it will likely be in the middle of the night here. So give me a minute or so to find myself, to know where I am, and to know that I pick up the phone. And then I'll pick up the phone and I will talk to you. Most of the things that you may want to discuss, you can discuss with your ground operator. Our suppliers are the best proven, legitimate suppliers in Africa, and you will get all their contact information. So you have a contact all the time in Africa at your time zone, locally with you, that you can talk to if there's something that needs to be addressed. And don't be fooled. There will be things that may not go 100%. I will not guarantee you that everything goes slickety-boo. There may be a hiccup here and there. It's Africa after all, but the question is, how are we going to handle that? And with the suppliers that we have been working with for many, many years, we know that any issues, any hiccups will be dealt with in a timely manner. You just need to tell them. You need to address it. You need to let them know. Let me know so I can address it if you feel more comfortable letting me know, and your issue will be addressed. The tours that I put together with you include all your transportation, all your applicable visas, your private guides and vehicles, most of your meals, all your permits, taxes, fees, everything on tour. There are no hidden costs. There may be additional costs that will be told. So you will know if there's an extra cost. For instance, in Zambia, we ask you to pay for your visa upon entry. Because there are different visas that can be purchased, and I will explain to you on your tour proposal, or if when we talk about your tour, which kind of visas those are. Those will also be explained in your tour program when you get it. So if there are extra costs on your tour, they will be known to you. So no hidden costs. You will receive the African Adventure Guidebook when you book with Lion Dog African Safaris. For booking, I require a 30% deposit. Once you have established your tour outline, your itinerary is set, you're excited to go, yes, you tell me I want to go to Africa, then I will ask you for a 30% non-refundable deposit. Why is it non-refundable? Because those funds go to Africa. There's a lot of moving elements for a tour to Africa. There's a lot of conservation we are supporting in Africa. There are park fees, entry permits that need to be secured before you even go. So those funds will be used to buy your gorilla permit, to secure your lodge, your hotel, your flight in Africa. So that's where those funds go to. That's why it's non-refundable. Even though hotels may be refundable if you cancel a booking, conservation fees, supporting communities, those funds will not come back to North America. So please understand that when you book your tour, a large amount of the funds that you're paying is going to the community, is going to conservation, is going to pay for park fees, is going to pay for permits. those kind of things that are not necessarily grabbable. Like we won't see that on paper. We will see a hotel booking, we will see a bed levy, for instance, on paper. But a lot of these funds go to support a lot more people than you will see, first line on your tour. Anyways, I have references available that will be named in your tour proposal. So on your last few pages in your proposal, you will see references, people that made it to Africa and made it back safe and sound. And they have agreed to be references for Lion Dog African Safaris. You can email them and you can ask them about their experiences. What was it? How was it? Did they like it? How was the transportation? How were the guides? Did something go wrong? What did go wrong? How was it solved? All those kind of things. You can email them and they will answer you. Most of them are happy to talk about their experience with Lion Dog African Safaris. From a North American perspective, things in Africa look a little bit different than from a European perspective, for instance. And I know how precious time is for us, and I know how you want to travel, and I know how we can do your trip without time wasted. So your circumstances, your preferences, your budget, and your timeline, you communicate that to me and I will integrate that in your tour proposal. Tour proposals are typically done on a PDF document that comes to your inbox. And once you've received that, we will go through it, or you will go through it. You can share with me your thoughts, either by phone or on a conference call or on a video meeting, things like that, Zoom, something like that, and we discuss your tour. Or you can discuss it amongst yourselves and then just tell me what you came up with, and then we change your tour. If there are things that maybe you want to cut a day or two, maybe you want to add something, maybe you want to change order or something like that. It is not uncommon to change tour proposals 2 or 3 times until we come up with something that really gets you excited to go to Africa, meet new people, make some friendships, get an impression of what life is in Africa. And I feel honored that you chose us to help you with that. So I would be thrilled if you would contact me for your tour to Africa. So we have 1 session left, and then we're done with all those things. Oh man, I can remember when we started and everything was just so unknown and uncertain, and not that it looks a lot better right now, but it does look better. We're getting there. So keep watching, keep your hopes up. I think we will get there fairly soon. Next time, it's not going to be a video recording. Next time, I hope I will meet you live on Facebook. Find our Facebook page, Lion Dog African Safaris. There will be a live show next Saturday, May 9th at 2 p.m. Mountain Daylight Savings Time. So check that out, what it is at your time. Could be noon, could be 1, around that time. It's typically 2 hours forward to 2 hours, within 2 hours forward or back. You should be able to meet with us. I will talk about visas, vaccinations, meals, luggage, and any questions you may have. I will try and answer them. If you have any questions already, please email me, info@liondogafricansafaris.com or Andrea@liondogafricansafaris.com. Send me your question so I can address it at Facebook. If I don't get to all questions, because I hope I see a lot of you there, if I can't get to every single comment or question, I will attend to them afterwards. So tune back in, send me an email with your questions, and I will address it. I quickly just want to go over the safety issues or safety questions that sometimes come up in regards to traveling to Africa before the pandemic. There is a group that comes up with a map of the world and indicates the level of safety in colors. The color map down here is green, very dark green to red, with green being the safest country on the map. And look at us, Canada here. We are very, very green. That means our country is considered to be very safe. Now, the lighter green countries are also considered to be safe. And here, down here, This is Namibia, this is Botswana. Zambia and Tanzania are considered quite safe. If you look at our neighbors down south, or you guys in the United States, you are considered not as safe. So I picked out a few countries and I put down the numbers on the list. So 163 countries that are listed in numerical order according to their their safety level, their state of peace. Tanzania is number 54 on a list of 163 countries. Namibia 60, Rwanda 79, Uganda 105, Kenya 120. So there's fairly big gap between Uganda and Kenya. South Africa 127, USA 128. So most of the countries that we go to in Africa are considered to be safer than the United States. And we don't think twice, really. Okay, now today we do think twice, but before that we didn't think twice to go on a vacation to the US. That's just as a little consideration, thinking about safety in Africa. So it's really safe to go to Africa. I took my my son, my family to Africa with no issue, with no worry about safety. I always felt super safe, and I don't hesitate to go back. I don't hesitate, even this year, later this year, I'm planned to go back to Africa, to Botswana, actually, in November. I honestly really hope that it's going to happen. Because I do want to go back. I do want to support the suppliers. I do want to support the communities. I want to support wildlife and conservation issues or efforts in Africa. And I hope that's where your thinking is as well. So I hope you enjoyed this part also. I hope to see you next Saturday, 2 p.m. Mountain Daylight Savings Time. Tune in. If you can't make it, usually those live chats on Facebook are recorded, and they will be on the Facebook page for Lion Dog African Safaris for a few more days, I think. I would check it. I will try and download it and put it on the Lion Dog African Safaris channel on YouTube, where you will also find all the recordings, this one today and all the recordings before that you will find on YouTube. I wish you a great day today, a great weekend. Keep your eyes peeled for some developments. I do honestly think we're going to hear some news, and we're going to hear some development for the next little bit. And I hope to see you next week. Have a good weekend.